Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Looking for Love in All the Wrong Dust Jackets, a show where three disgruntled harpies talk to you about everything we love in romance, whether that's books, movies, TV shows, whatever we like. My name's Liz.
I'm Danny.
I'm Wiggles.
And welcome to the episode. Today, we are doing a wrap-up episode. These are all the books that we have read since our last wrap-up episode that have not made it into podcast episodes. We're going to tell you what we liked, what we didn't like, and we're going to do our best to do it absolutely spoiler-free so you can listen to this and you'll be good to go.
Mm-hmm.
Woot.
And if you stick around at the end, we will be recommending 3, because just one from each of us.
Shut up. This is why you tell me ahead of time.
We will be recommending 3 books that you will be able to vote on to decide which will be next in our season. Obviously, it won't come out for a few weeks because we need time to read it and then record it, but we will do that book.
Guarantee, because we did it last time. And
We
we just
did.
released, as of
Lights
recording, Lights Out by Nevessa Allen.
And it is spicy.
Oh, so spicy.
Oh, so spicy. It's so good.
Listen to that audiobook alone.
Anyway, before we get into our books, though, I do have to warn the people. Gots to let them know that we are crass and unhinged. We are terribly unladylike. And we're going to talk about all of the naughty times using all of them 4-letter words.
Tego biddies.
Yup. So if you didn't like that, now you know.
Now you know.
You've been warned. Okay. First up on the agenda is...
So we have our good books, but we're the ones that we're not recommending for the podcast. So this might be for a lot of reasons. It might be that they're just, not romances, or it could be that they're, not the right vibe. And so that doesn't mean they're not good books. Liz, I want to hear one of your many books, because we all know that you never be stopping, and that's what we appreciate about you.
That is what we appreciate about you.
Oh, thanks. Okay, I'll start off with a good one. It could have been a recommendation, but it's not, and I'll tell you why. So this one is Not in Love by Allie Hazelwood.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of her more, as of recording, more recent romances that came out, and she specifically has an introduction that is, this is not like my other romances. It's a lot spicier, and it is.
Oh,
Guess who's checking that out soon?
same.
I think the way she describes it is these characters really use kind of sex and physical touch as the only way that it can express themselves. So you get that. The reason it's not a recommendation is 1, because we've done 2 Allie Hazelwoods before.
We have.
Fair enough.
And 2, I liked it, but I didn't love it. It was a 3.5 for me. And not because it was bad. It was just the characters felt a little two-dimensional. They had backstories, but they just didn't feel fleshed out. And the romance, it felt like it was all about the sex, which on one hand is good for a book where she tells you ahead of time that's the point, but there then needs to be a transition to more romance. And I felt like there was a big gap there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and also we know Allie can flesh out her characters very well.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that probably is a little disappointing because we very much liked at least one of her books.
I liked both of them. I get the argument for why people wouldn't be as big a fan of the pink one.
Love on the Brain.
That's the one. Thank you. It wasn't on my brain. So I liked it, but the issue with that book was not a lack of fleshed out characters either. So it's an interesting flaw to have in one of her books.
Well, I think the way I was reading it is this was a new attempt from her at trying to write something that is more steamy, more sexually driven.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of hey, you tried? Keep trying. You're going to get better. And I'm going to like the next one you write like this.
Fair enough.
Cool.
Wiggles?
Well, since you brought up Allie, I think I'll transition into my Allie Hazelwood.
Oh, boy.
Just this past September, Allie Hazelwood came out with an audiobook exclusive. You cannot get a physical copy of this book, called Two Can Play. And it's a novella, and so it's a lot shorter, but it's really fun if you enjoy video games. The 2 main characters are video game programmers. And for it being a short book, I didn't feel like I needed more. which is pretty rare for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It all takes place, these two different, not rival exactly, but not getting along video game companies have gone to a retreat because they're going to work together on this really big project. And so naturally, one character from each faction is, hey, look at you. And, you know, one thing Allie Hazelwood does really good is the miscommunication trope. Like, it's not my favorite trope, but if you're going to do it right. And she does it right. And so, yeah, check it out. I give it 4 stars. I feel like it was deserving of it.
That's been on my list, and I've wondered, is there something different about the writing that makes it specifically for audio only?
No. As far as I can tell, it could be a book, but it is a book. It could be a physical book. There's no reason that it couldn't be. My guess is it's so short that the justification to print it isn't there.
Oh, I guess I assumed it was just kind of like a sales or tactic, or like, I don't want to say gimmicky to make it audio only, but like this kind of, hey, check this out. It's different and unique.
Well, so she's done other novellas before, but she's put them in compilations that are the size of a book. And this is a standalone exclusive to that. So I'm guessing that that's part of where it's coming from.
Interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's really fun. It's perfect for winter. It's like they get snowed in, right?
Oh.
So, you know, I'd listen to it again with some hot cocoa. And the steam was pretty good. There was some steam heat coming off of that audio. And here's the other thing. You know, I've gotten real spoiled with the 2 narrators thing, and this one only had 1, and it was very good.
Oh.
Is that the one that it was only on Spotify? Like, it's not even on Audible. You can only get it through Spotify?
I don't know. I did listen to it on Spotify, so I'm not 100% sure. Yeah. So there you go. Check it out, Danny.
Okay, so I'm going to preface all of this by saying I have started a new job, so my brain has been squishy and Danny has not been reading. However, I read exactly 2 books since our last wrap-up ones that weren't for the podcast. Both of them were 5-star reads for me.
Oh, damn.
Ooh.
But I can say this one in the not recommending for the podcast solely because we have already done a book by this author. You both will be very excited about this. I finished Leather and Lark.
Yay! Much success.
Great success.
And I fucking loved it. I finished it today while I was working.
Yeah.
You listened to that at work?
Uh-huh. And
specifically the epilogue?
Uh-huh.
That is named Strapped?
Uh-huh.
Yep. Sure did. I was blushing very much. But I mostly don't have to talk to people while I'm working, and so I was fine. But so I did listen to the second half of that book today while I was working. So I went real in depth in it. I listened from when they got married until the end of the book today.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
That's where all those steamy parts are.
Yeah.
Except for one really good kiss, everything steamy happens after that.
Yeah.
So you know what happens at the concert that almost got me in trouble.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Sure do.
Yeah.
Gosh. Y'all need to stop listening to these books in public.
It wasn't an issue. Nora was supposed to be in the office.
There were people in my office, but I was not listening to it out loud because hubris, Wiggles.
No one was
Goddamn.
supposed to be in the office.
Listen, you flew too close to the sun.
You did.
Your wax wings melted. Here we are.
So yes, I did not say the name of the author. That would be Leather and Lark by Bryn Weaver. Very good book. Absolutely loved it. Highly recommend the audiobook.
I need more audiobooks by the male narrator. Can't think of what his name is.
He's only just started doing that. He's also an actor in, was it Vikings or?
Is he?
Yeah.
Tell me everything.
I know he was an actor in some show.
Guess who's looking that up after y'all get out my house?
But I knew you both would be very excited about that because you've been telling me to listen to it, and I had it. My brain was so squishy.
I understand. Yes. All right. Well, Liz.
Oh, yay.
We're back to you.
Cool. Can I do a twofer?
Go for it.
Neat. So this range of when we are doing our wrap-ups is like mid-September to mid-November. And guess what's right in the middle? Spooky season. So here's the 2 quote-unquote horror books that I read. They weren't very scary. They're both by T. Kingfisher, which is why we're doing a twofer. The first one is The Hollow Places, which is it's set in a contemporary time period where a woman in her 30s is helping her uncle out at his like curiosity museum shop place.
Ooh.
And all of a sudden there's a hole in the wall that appears, and
Like they do.
and she foolishly goes into it, and it takes her into this other world where it's very like eldritch horror-esque. There's like spooky trees, and there are like bunkers that if you go into, some can lead into other worlds, and there are people that are from an Earth but not our Earth. And she does this with her friend Simon, and he's hilarious and I love him. I gave it 4 stars. It for a book that is horror or thriller, it wasn't really scary. There were certainly some creepy elements to it, but if you were going into it going like, yeah, this is my spooky season book, sure. And some of the writing was a little cringy. Just like the dialogue, she would build up these scenes that seemed really spooky and like had all of these elements of these monsters or like specters or ghosts. You're not really sure what's happening. And they would get really undercut by the main character's like narration being kind of cringy or relating everything to pop culture, which is fine, but just kind of really takes you out of it.
Fair enough.
So, but it was still 4 stars. I still enjoyed it. I probably wouldn't read it again, but I think that's kind of usually where my 4 stars lead. 5 stars, I want to read it again. 4 stars, maybe, who knows. The other one I read by her, which is her much shorter novel, What Moves the Dead. You might know the cover of it. I've seen it all over the places. It has like the illustrated dead rabbit that has mushrooms growing out of it. That one is set in a historical time period. I want to say like maybe Edwardian. She doesn't really say, but that's kind of the vibe I was getting. And this captain in the army goes to visit his friend at his like dilapidated castle mansion place because everyone is sick, and his friend's sister is dying, and nobody can figure out why. And so they have to do this like investigation into why there are these creepy alien things happening, like the lake glows at night and there are rabbits that move around but don't act like rabbits. They'll just like sit and stare at you and then walk off with these really disjointed movements.
I don't like that.
And so I gave that one 3 stars. I just never got into it. It could have just been the mood. I was kind of having a rough reading time period as of late. I've been trying to get myself to explore new genres and like explore new writing styles. And sometimes you just aren't into that. You're like, I just want to read my comfort read. But so I don't think it's necessarily anything against the book, maybe just not my time.
Sure.
Fair enough.
Okay, back to me. So I also read a spooky book, so I guess I'll do that one next. I read Alice by Christina Henry, and as the title would imply, this is a dark retelling of Alice in Wonderland. The premise is that Alice and Hatcher are side-by-side cellmates in an insane asylum, bust out, and are both regaining their memories as they try to get revenge on the people who put them there. And so it involves things like the White Rabbit and the Caterpillar and the Cheshire Cat being these like mob boss type characters. Really dark. When I say, oh, dark, we have an idea. We have a picture in our heads from the concepts that we have of a dark romance. It's not that. There is discussion of body mutilation. There's discussion of SA, rape, of all different kinds. Murder regularly happens like every chapter. So it is dark and also very good. I gave it 4 stars.
Very nice.
So I would not recommend it to most people. Not in a, I don't think it's a good book, but I don't think
It wouldn't be comfortable for a lot of people.
yes. The trigger warnings is a mile long. And I knew it was dark, but I wasn't fully prepared for some of the things that they described in detail. And I was just like, oh my God, I need this to stop. But also keep telling me the story. I need to know how it ends. So yeah, go into it with a grain of salt. This is not a dark romance. I cannot emphasize that enough. It is just a very dark book. Danny?
All right, well, we are bringing it back around to spooky season,
Yay.
but a very lighter side of spooky season
That's all right.
with Pumpkin Spice and Poltergeist.
Mm-hmm.
It is the Maple Hollow series by Allie Mulford and L. Morrison. I'm very upset that there is not a second book yet. Very upset about it. So basically, this is a sapphic romance where it is a Halloween-themed town, and a girl moves to this town to live with her sister because she's kind of a fuck-up queen. She just kind of messes everything up. So she's like, I need to start over. I'm going to go live with my sister and help her at the cafe that she runs in this town. Come to find out that the town is actually a paranormal town. And while her sister is a human that lives there and everything that people think is just like a gimmick for the town is actually real. And then there is a witch who runs the apothecary, and she does the seance to speak with her dead ex just to get closure, and then accidentally gets her stuck there.
Okay.
So she's trying to figure out how to get her ex-girlfriend Lou to move on. And there's a murder mystery aspect of it.
Okay.
And it's really good. It's really cute. It's very cozy vibes, but with a murder mystery aspect. So that's wonderful. It was, I can't, it was so good. It made me so happy. To the point where, like, I had been reading it and then said job happened and brain went squishy and hadn't been reading it. And then the other day I woke up on Saturday at 6 a.m. and was like, fuck, I'm awake. Oh, I'm going to finish this book. So I finished it and then went back to sleep at 8 o'clock in the morning for 2 hours.
Those are my absolute favorite weekend mornings. I've done that so many times where I'm just like, I'm awake. I'm going to read a book. Oh, this book is making me sleepy. Good night.
Well, and usually when I say it's a cozy book, there is very, like, little to no spice. There's actually, like, not like, we're taking this with a grain of salt because it's coming from me and where I'm like, ooh, Spice Queen. Like, for a cozy book, there's a decent amount of spice. It takes a while to get there.
All right.
Because Harlow and Jordan are, dealing with some shit. But it's pretty nice. It's pretty nice.
And this was your second 5-star read?
This is my second 5-star read. It was very good, very exciting. Like I said, I started reading it around the Halloween and then got distracted by shiny things called new work opportunities. But
life happens and you gotta let it happen.
When I started this book, I was super excited about it, and I literally took it to work with me at my old job and sat in the car and read before work and on lunch.
Yeah, those are the good days.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When you can't stop.
I read over half of that book in one day. And then life happened. Damn you, life. But then when I got finished with it, I was like, okay, this is a series. Where's the next one? It's not out yet. Because they left it open for her sister to have a love story. They left it open for Jordan's best friend to have a love story. And I'm like, now which one are we going with? Are we going with the sister and the werewolf? Or are we going with the best friend and the demoness?
I mean, both are great options. Do they have a date when the next book's going to come out yet?
I didn't see anything.
They might not if this one, because I feel like I heard this one, so it just came out not too long ago.
Yeah, it came out in September.
Mm.
So I think that brings us back to you, Liz.
Cool beans. I'm going to do another twofer.
Ooh.
Can't stop me now.
I mean, I
Wasn't
could.
gonna try.
Okay, well, the reason I'm doing these as a twofer, not because they go together at all, but because they're both like a part of a series. That's my rationale here. So the first one is Pucking Sweet by Emily Rath. It is the third book in her Jacksonville Rays, I think is the name of the series.
Mm-hmm.
Hockey romance. Gotta love it.
You do love you some hockey romance.
I don't know why. I just do.
Sometimes you just have a thing that you like, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It does make going to actual hockey games a little weird, though. So, gotta be warned. Anyway, so this one is... What exactly defines a reverse harem? Because this one has a female main character and then 2 male main characters. Does that make it reverse harem at that point?
Are the male main characters also with each other?
Yes.
Then I think that's just a perfect love triangle.
Cool beans. So, yeah, we've got Poppy, Lucas, and Colton. They are, I mean, it's a workplace romance because they all work together, 2 hockey players and the main PR, the person in charge of PR. It is also the surprise pregnancy trope that's not a surprise to the audience because we find that out in the previous book, which I like. If there is going to be, I hate accidental pregnancies or surprise pregnancy tropes unless I'm told ahead of time. If I know going into the book that is the premise, then it's fine. I don't want it to be a surprise for me.
Yeah, I'm not a huge pregnancy trope person in general. So for instance, we read the Greyback Bad Bears, the first book of it. In the second book, Gia comes back pregnant, and that didn't bother me.
Because that was the whole premise of the book is she is pregnant and has to go back and talk to him.
Correct.
It's not like you get to the 3rd act and then whoop, there's a baby.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't even have the baby in that book.
No.
She's still pregnant in the next book.
I think for me where the line is I am all for a surprise pregnancy trope where it is used as a means to have this couple, whether they choose to stay together, whether they go with other people, right, to learn and grow and figure out how to be good parents together. I'd hate it when this is how we justify bringing 2 people who don't belong together back together.
Yes.
Yeah, I hate that too because I despise the thought process of we're going to be together because we're having a kid.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
Mm-hmm.
That is oftentimes the worst thing you can do for that fucking child.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think the reason that if it's done right, I do like it is because it's under the umbrella of forced proximity. And I love forced proximity.
Mm-hmm.
So again, if it's done right, if the whole purpose of these 2 people, or in this case, 3 people being together is because they're trying to solve the how are we going to raise this kid situation. And then through the process of that and forcing all of this time with each other, they fall in love.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's that we're going to be together because we have a kid thing that drives me nuts.
Yes. Nothing about that's romantic.
It's not. No, it's not. In real life either. So
No.
to put that out there. So Pucking Sweet, I gave 4 stars. I love this series. I love the characters. I love when we get to see characters that side characters that come in each book, or we get characters from previous books that are now side characters. The one thing that I didn't like about it that knocked it down that whole star is the 2 men's, Lucas and Colton. We were sold the premise that they are going to be together as well. Everybody is with everybody. But the main focus of this book was Poppy, the female main character. And I was like, oh man, you sold me something that I got a little bit of, but I didn't get anywhere near as much as I wanted. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still enjoyable. So I guess if you like the series, obviously you're going to read this anyway. If you have never read the series, they're just fun. They're fun.
Who doesn't like fun?
And then the next sequel, or next in a series book I read, is Quit Your Waning by Etta Pierce. I've talked about Etta Pierce so much. Her Interstellar Union series is an absolute joy to me. These are sci-fi romances. The main premise is humans from Earth got kidnapped by bad aliens, got rescued by good aliens, but they can't go back to Earth because Earth as a whole does not know about aliens, and that would... In Star Trek language, that would break the Prime Directive. So they get set up on a planet in this colony, and they're trying to build these new lives. But they still have aliens, people who are there helping them. Some of them are security guards, some of them are doctors. They're doing all sorts of stuff. And Quit Your Waning is about Sizzle, who is probably the most alien. He's this huge draconic creature that walks on 4 legs or 2 legs and eats literally everything. His favorite thing to eat is metal because he can digest anything. And he falls in love with or they have like a mating thing with one of the humans. It's a cozy novel. There's not really any sort of conflict here. The premise is they're setting up for Halloween. It's the first Halloween. So all the aliens are like, what's Halloween? And all the humans are like, oh, we do Halloween in Korea like this. And we do it in America like this. And it's pretty fun. I gave it 3.5 stars just because it was like so short. Because she originally, the author wrote it as a super short novella in a compilation and then created a slightly larger book to be a standalone. And it just felt like it wasn't fleshed out enough.
Fair enough.
The idea and the premise is great. I just needed a little bit more TLC.
You know, with all the alien romances, how long do you think it will take for someone to come out with an alien romance where the aliens are living in the ocean?
Not long at all.
In our ocean?
Yeah.
So it's not like Whispers of the Deep where they've always been in the ocean. These are...
Well, so the reason I ask
It's because government is...
The government is saying that there are aliens in the ocean.
And they're not getting the response they want because everybody's just like, cool.
What do you want from me at this point? All I have in my body is apathy and loathing. Which do you want? Because I have plenty of loathing for the government. I have plenty of apathy for the government. Which one do you want?
I feel like we're so to the point in our society where unless you can actually show me proof,
yes,
undeniable proof,
where's the proof?
And even then I'll still be like, did you Photoshop that?
Right?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I want it. I want all the smut writers to be like, fuck you and your aliens. We're turning them sexy. But that's me.
We've been trying.
Yeah.
We've been trying.
Imagine you're an alien, though, and you come to Earth and you're just like, what the fuck is this shit?
No,
I do not have 3 penises.
Imagine you're an alien and you come to Earth and there's just like a gaggle of women who are like, so what that thing do?
And they're like, no, we reproduce asexually. Get away from me.
Well, and not to leave anybody out, women, men, and all non-binary folk being like, what that thing do?
It's true.
Because that is what would happen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hey, what that thing do?
Yeah.
It'd be like a weird interview series, like a 60 Minutes, and there'd be like a write-in question section, and one person just says, this question we got like a million times. It just says, what that thing do? So we have to ask it.
I'm just saying, of how many billions of people live on this planet, there's a Captain Jack Harkness out there who will sleep with every alien who dares to come to this Earth.
Oh, how dare you! And I love him so much.
There's a lot of
a lot of them. Yes,
Captain Jack Harkness is out there.
Yes,
and I do get that reference because I watched 2 seasons of Doctor Who.
I'm very proud of you.
All right, Wiggs, it's back to you.
Okay, so we're going to talk about a book that I really love. It's the second in a series by Hannah Witten. It's called the Nightshade Crown series. First one is called Foxglove King. Second one is Hemlock Queen. And coming out far too long from now, for my liking, is The Nightshade God. So, the Hemlock Queen... What has happened leading up to that, I can't really say without having a whole bunch of spoilers, but the basic premise is that there are people who can manipulate what is called mortem, which is leftover magic from the dead bodies of the gods. And our main character is one of those people. There are also royalty who are said to be connected to this other god, right? And in that, there is lots of conflict, political intrigue. There's a love triangle that could be a perfect love triangle if they would get their heads out of their asses. There's possession. There's an intricate plot of like how all of this came to be and why these particular people feel connected, even though they had never met each other. This is in the first book. And we find out why in the second book. And it just was hitting all the points I wanted it to hit. And that doesn't happen a lot. Technically, it's probably a 4.5 for me because I just wanted it to be a little bit more, but it was really damn good. And I'm really looking forward to the second in the series. And so far, Hannah Witten hasn't missed with me.
Is she the author who also did like For the Wolf in that series?
Yeah. If she sticks the landing on this third book, I'm going to be like, I'm in your camp forever. Like, just... So anyway, I can't talk more about it without a whole bunch of fucking spoilers. So that's all I can give you. Go check out that series. Hannah Witten.
I have The Foxglove King on my shelf, and every time I look at it, I think of you and go, Wiggles would like it if I read that. And then I look at how big it is, and I go to another book that's smaller.
I have done that with many of the books you've given me. I'm like, Liz would like to be able to talk to me about this book. That's too bad.
What did I literally do to both of you with Leather and Lark?
Yeah, and doesn't it feel good to be on the other side now, Danny?
As I finished it today, I was like, they're going to be very pleased with me.
Yes, indeed.
I actually saw on the Goodreads that you had rated Leather and Lark earlier today, and I was like, God damn, it's about time. Hell yeah!
I knew Goodreads was going to tell on me, but like I can automatically do it from the Audible app. And so I was like, and then the second I did it, I was like, God damn it, Goodreads is going to tattle on me.
Oh, it did.
Yeah.
It did hard.
Got you pumped. Fuck yeah. Anyway.
Honestly, you didn't actually wait that long because Leather and Lark came out in, I want to say August.
Yeah, we just jumped on that thing like we were rabid dogs.
Yeah, and this is November. So like really, that's not that long.
No, it's not. And I always read less than you guys do because I have the attention span of a Cocker Spaniel. We're aware of this. It's fine. And then there's times where I will read like a rabid dog.
Yeah.
It's just my brain can only handle it for so long. And then I'm like, ooh, shiny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wouldn't want anybody to look at how much I read and go, oh, look at that. That's awesome. Like I really aspire to read as much as her, because you have to understand, to read as much as I do, you have to ignore a lot of responsibilities in life.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
Well, I'm only able to read as much as I do because I read on 3 different platforms, I guess. Mediums. That's more of what I'm thinking about. Because I do the audiobook, I do the Kindle, I do the physical book. And so that's, otherwise I would have no capacity.
I listen to audiobooks a lot, as we've learned for this podcast. But I also re-listen to certain audiobooks quite often. For instance, I needed something just to be very familiar to me. And so I started re-listening to Ready Player One because that book is my happy place.
I really like the audiobook for Ready Player One. I mean, it's done by Will Wheaton, so that's great.
Yep.
And I remember I listened to it when I was at the gym, which is saying something because not a lot of audiobooks can keep you moving.
Yeah.
And so that was a good one.
Yeah, it is a really good audiobook. I find Will Wheaton's voice very calming.
He does have a calming voice.
He has a very calming voice. He also narrates the book Martian.
The Martian? Like the movie, or just Martian? The one with the
Matt Damon one.
Okay. So The Martian.
The Martian.
Yeah, that's on my list. Like
It's
I literally have
good.
that in my audiobook library. Do you even understand?
It's a very good audiobook.
Yeah.
Also, I love that movie.
I don't think I've ever seen the movie. But anyway, so we'll go through this fast because this is now where I'm getting caught up with y'all. And I finally read Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez.
Yes! It's so fucking good.
It's so fucking good.
Easy 5 stars. Yeah. Obviously, I won't recommend it because we already did for the podcast as an episode, yours truly, the second of the book. Check it out. And then I have also finished the 3rd in the series, so I'm all ready for the 4th one, whenever the fuck that's coming out. I don't know when it is.
The 3rd in the series, I think, is going to be my next romance read. I've been itching to do it. I've just been debating back and forth whether I listen to it or I physically read it, because I listened to Part of Your World and it was fucking stellar. And I read physically yours truly, and that was a fun experience too. And so I don't know what I want to do.
So I listened to the audiobook for Just for the Summer, which is the 3rd one, and I loved it.
Okay.
So I can put a vote in that columm for you.
We are big fans of Abby Jimenez on this.
Yes, we are.
And I love her TikToks.
It's true. Although she hasn't been on my FYP lately, and that really upsets me. So
Yeah.
TikTok needs to get it together.
True. Also, big fan of her cupcakes.
Those
Yes,
were
true.
fucking delicious. Check her out. Maple Grove, yes?
Maple Grove Nadia Cakes.
Yeah.
And I think she
It's
has
Minnesota. I suppose we should clarify the
probably,
state.
Yeah.
probably. And I think she has 2 locations in the LA area. I know she has at least
Oh.
1.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so Part of Your World is a small town contemporary romance where Allie,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, I had to remind myself because Lights Out is also Allie. It's
Mhm.
confusing. People like the name Allie, apparently. Allie is a doctor who's got all this pressure from like her family to take over the like, not take over the hospital, but be a major part of this very specific hospital because her family has always been big players in this hospital. And she kind of doesn't really want to do that. She had a shitty breakup with the chief of surgery, who's a dick, who comes back and is a major player in Just for the Summer, by the way. So
Oh.
prepare yourself.
I'm working on it.
Okay. And she has a run-in in a small town with the mayor, Daniel. I just find it funny that he's the mayor, who also runs like a B&B, and it's a reverse age gap, but it was done so well. I absolutely loved it. The way Abby creates these characters that feel so real, main characters, side characters, all of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
And they all have like their issues, which again feel so real and so tangible. The town feels so real and tangible. It's just, so good. And the problems, like medical deserts, again, real, tangible, all woven together in this magical weave. I'm going on a tangent. I'll stop.
Well, and this one, correct me if I'm wrong, it is Part of Your World where the mantra that keeps reoccurring throughout the book is it costs you nothing to be kind.
Yes.
And that it's rare that something like that sticks in my brain. Like I'm like, oh, that's nice. And that has stuck in my brain since I read that book.
I think the actual phrase is grace costs you nothing,
Yeah.
No.
but you're very close.
Yeah.
You got the point.
Yeah.
So if you take nothing away from this, read Part of Your World and Abby Jimenez's books, read Leather and Lark and Bryn Weaver's books.
It's a
There
good
you
time.
go.
It's a good time.
And also a spooky Alice retelling that's dark as fuck.
Or you don't have to read that one.
I might. I will say I might have already pre-ordered the next book.
Have you read Just for the Summer, the 3rd book?
No, I haven't. So
Okay.
not sorry. I was actually talking about the next book in Bryn Weaver's series.
Oh,
Ah.
Scythe and Sparrow, or Sparrow and Scythe.
I already pre-ordered the audiobook.
You should.
Yeah.
I wonder who's going to do that, if it's going to be the same narrators from Leather and Lark. Interesting.
Interesting. Yes.
But yes, always with the Abby Jimenez. I have never been disappointed by her yet.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll keep going like I do. Can't stop me. I just finished today Salt and Broom by Sharon Lynn Fisher, which is a witchy Jane Eyre retelling.
Ooh.
Yes. Where Jane, instead of being a governess for Mr. Rochester, is a witch. I'm trying to like explain the magic system in this. It feels very like Hocus Pocus, the movie, keeps coming back into my head, where the rhymes are very, I don't want to say cheesy, but they feel kind of like that. Like every spell ends with "so mote it be," and she uses and her thing is herbalism, and she everything is like, how do I use these plants are specific for protection and kind of stuff like that. So Jane is a witch that gets hired by Mr. Rochester because there is this like dark cloud hanging over Thornfield, and she is there to help figure out why the bad spirits are there. And it's set in the original time period or close to it. It's interesting as somebody who like loves Jane Eyre the way I do to read retellings, because the entire time I'm like, okay, I know this character from the original book, but what is that character doing in this book? Or what is the plot doing in this book? Which sometimes can also be frustrating, because you're like, wait a minute, there's a big plot point that's supposed to happen right here, and you just skipped it. You just ran right past it. And I think this book does a good job of taking like the essence of Jane Eyre. The characters are still the same. Mr. Rochester, Edward, is still stern and kind of grouchy, but also super lovable. And Jane is very independent and has a hard time like holding her tongue and things like that. I gave it 4 stars because it is kind of slow, which I guess is similar in the beginning, especially, which is similar to the original book. And I felt like the magic system kind of just did whatever the author needed it to do.
there wasn't any sort of, I hate to put it in this way, there isn't any sort of physics to it where it has like laws, essentially.
Yeah. And I'm okay with, right? So some books are very like the audience or the reader knows exactly what the magic can do. And some are, the point of it is to not really know what the magic can do. So it always feels very just out of reach or ethereal or whatever. But there still needs to feel like there's some rules around it, even if you don't know what they are. And it kind of felt like the magic was just whatever the author needed to get the plot moving at some times, which was kind of a bummer. And also the time period is so much shorter, which is fine. But the original Jane Eyre took place over years. Even if you cut out the beginning shit about her childhood.
Yeah.
But it was still enjoyable. I still really liked it. It was pretty cozy kind of vibes. So if you're looking for like a fun, witchy, magical realism thing, and you love the characters of Jane and Edward, I would read it.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, now the bad ones.
Now to the bad ones.
I don't have any this time.
Samesies.
That's so nice.
Right?
How nice for you.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I DNF'd a book.
Ooh.
Which makes me kind of not want to talk about it. Anyway, I'm going to talk about it though. So I read Ghosts of Halloween by Layla Faye. I got tricked by a lot of marketing on like Instagram and stuff to read this book. It is a reverse harem book where the three men's are ghosts. They are dead. They be dead. Which
Could
sounds
be very interesting.
right. It could be very interesting. I think I got like 30% in, and the spice, she was already spicing. Horde. But here's the problem. And we've said this so many times before. If you're going to write a dark romance, that's great. We've read dark romances that we love. But there is a massive difference between a dark romance where there is informed consent and everybody knows what's going on, and there's a lot of check-ins, and there's a lot of like, anyway. And then there's books like this where it's really just glorified essay.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Nope. I don't blame you for DNFing that at all.
Nope. I probably would have too.
Yeah. I get writing books where the main character is going through some shit, and the way they kind of like process it or shove it out of the way is to turn to like sexual activity. But you can't glorify doing really shitty things, especially to your usually female main character, and just have them be like, well, I'm tormented, so I'm just going to accept it. It's like, no, thank you.
No, thank you.
I'm so tired of that shit. I hate it so much. And, you know, I guess there's a market for it, right? There's some people who reading that is somehow cathartic or something. I can't speak to their perspective, but for me, it's not just I don't want to see it in what I'm reading. I don't want to see it on television. I don't want to see it in my fucking video games. I don't want to see it in movies. I don't want to see it.
The problem here is like, there are books that have essay and rape and all of that because it is core to some plot point or some character trauma that happens through their arc.
But they don't glorify it in any way.
Yes.
It's a trauma.
Yeah, they don't wrap up like, oh, we kidnapped her and she's never interacted with us in this way, and then tied her up and she woke up and we're gonna fuck her. And it's like, okay, do you think maybe you should have asked her first?
Right.
If that was cool.
Right. Well, so recently I watched Woman of the Hour, and I think I
Oh, it's
talked
so
about
good.
that when we were
so good.
Yes. I think we talked about it a little bit while we were doing Lights Out, because the juxtaposition between those two was really interesting to have at the same time. And the thing I think that's so effective is we know exactly what's happening, but we aren't looking directly at it ever. And that's kind of how you don't, as an author, need to placate people or make sure everybody is, you know, perfectly happy with everything that's happening in the book. But if you're not going to call out those things as damaging and bad, and then you're going to make us watch it or read it and visualize it in our minds, to a certain extent, you are responsible when people DNF it and say, I don't want any fucking part of this. You have to own that, because that's the choice you're making. And I don't want any part of that.
Well, and there's so many ways to still have those scenes of of BDSM or the different types of sexual play that we've read in books, where it still feels on edge but safe. Like when we read Her Soul to Take, there was always like a little bit of this tension in some of those scenes, but it was always still safe. Like the characters were always safe with each other. They always checked in with each other.
Same thing with Lights Out.
Yeah.
There's constant check-ins to make sure that you are still fine with this, even though he was doing stalkery situations, but he did the check-ins to ensure that he still had consent, which is a vital part of BDSM and everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think some of my favorite scenes in both Lights Out and Her Soul to Take are the like punishment scenes where, oh, you did something, I'm going to punish you sexually. But it's always done in this way of pushing people, but having an out, whether it's a safe word or knowing that if you say stop, they'll stop. And in books like the one I just read, you haven't established anything. So the main character, even if theoretically she would like that setup, there's no knowing if stop is going to do anything. And so then we've entered the world of SA.
Yeah, and what I find uncomfortable about the various book communities on social media is that their reaction to somebody saying, I don't like this and I don't want to read it, and I'm not going to recommend it to other people who like to read the books that I like to read, is that they're like, well, you're weak and you're making it out to seem like the author is where the characters are bad and they're essaying. And it's like, well, kind of they are, number one. And number two, it's weird that you're pushing it on people. That's something I really don't like when I see that, where somebody's like just brushing over it, and it's like, people are allowed to expect trigger warnings in today's day and age. They're allowed to make choices about what they want to read and don't want to read.
Well, we called it out in Bridgerton.
Yeah. Well, I think the big difference between reading books like Lights Out and Her Soul to Take, and that's just what we're referencing because those are some of the most recent books that we've done episodes about, and a book like the one I was just talking about, is there are trigger warnings in the beginning of both, but the trigger warnings in the beginning of like Ghosts of Halloween are incorrect.
Yeah.
Because you are not saying that there is non-consent. You might say things like, oh, it's dubious consent or whatever. I was like, no, this is zero. There is zero consent here.
There's a big difference between dubious consent and non-consent.
Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, Danny, because it's not just consent or not consent, and there's just a binary there. There is a spectrum where and in between there is the dubious consent, but it's not, you can't just say dubious consent in place of not any consent asked for or given.
Yeah.
That's not the same fucking thing.
No.
And I think the difference with like Lights Out, because Josh does do a lot of things before he gets any consent to do like some of the stalkery stuff. He doesn't really do anything sexual, but like the stalker and stuff, is there's, I think, such a key and pivotal part in that book when Brad, the bad guy, appears. I'm not going to say what happens for spoiler reasons, but Josh has this massive moment of, oh shit, I did some things to Allie that are really bad. His realization and talking to her just kind of, it made it feel so much better, because we all make mistakes. I mean, we don't put cameras in people's apartments, make mistakes, but
speak for yourself.
Wiggles, I've talked to you about this.
They're not on now.
Yeah, because I'm not there. What are you doing? Watching my cat? She's boring.
Actually, the cat's why the cameras are there. So
yeah, it's not about you, it's about the cats. Well, that's my one bad book. So that brings us to our suggestion
time.
Who wants to start?
I think Wiggles should start.
I can start. Okay, so I have not read this book, but I've watched the show on Liz's recommendation, and it's fucking stellar.
Except they fucking canceled it.
I'm fine. God, I'm fine. And that's My Lady Jane.
Yes.
By Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows.
That is so many names.
That's right. I assume that's like one person's like the storytelling, one person's like the historical perspective. That's my guess. But anyway, it's a fantasy like retelling of the real life person, Lady Jane Grey, who was, I believe, queen for like 18 days, something like that.
It's something like that.
Yeah. It's less than 20. And the reason that it's less than 20 is because she was swiftly beheaded by Mary. So if you don't know Tudor history, you might want to brush up a little bit on that before you watch the show. But like, honestly, it's fine if you don't.
I didn't. And I only know the Tudor history that I got from watching The Tudors. So it's fine.
That's pretty close.
Okay.
That's pretty close. I mean, the Tudors it's a thing, but like they got the gist.
All right.
Correct. Anyway, so in this retelling, Jane doesn't die, spoilers, but it's not really a spoiler because they tell you that in the first episode. And she has an adventure, and there are people who can turn into animals and have special powers that way. Why they have them? Not really explained.
At least not in the show.
At least not in the show.
No.
Can't speak for the book. Haven't read it yet. But there is this amazingly dynamic, irresistible romance between her and her fellow Guilford. And you're like, Jesus Christ. The tension is tensioning.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's so good. Anyway, and tragically, we have been denied the second season, and I want to murder somebody. But we have not been denied the book and its potential sequels. So in the book, My Lady Jane, they inspired it. This storytelling style is inspired by The Princess Bride, which features a reluctant king, an even more reluctant queen, a noble steed, and only passing resemblance to actual history because sometimes history needs a little help. At 16, Lady Jane Grey is about to be married off to a stranger and caught up in conspiracy to rob her cousin, King Edward, of his throne. But those trifling problems aren't for Jane to worry about. Jane gets to be Queen of England. What could go wrong? I don't know if it's going to be way more YA as a book because the show was spicy for a television show. But, I'm interested to check it out, and I think we might have fun. So that's my suggestion.
So I have also not read this book, but I seem to be in my cozy book era.
That's great, though.
Mm-hmm.
But so this one piqued my interest. It's called Love Letters and Thirst Tonics by Haley Blackwood. It is a cozy vampire novel. It's about a girl who owns a trinket shop and it gets destroyed, and she has a pen pal that she takes solace in, and then I believe her pen pal is the person that comes to the town because he escaped his village or whatever, and he is then helping her rebuild the shop, and they're vampires.
They're both vampires?
They're both vampires.
Interesting.
Fascinating.
So I know not a lot about it, but it looks cozy and fun, and I'm like, ooh, cozy vampire novel?
Mm-hmm.
This is striking something in my memory. I feel like I've seen this and have also wanted to read it.
I think you marked that you wanted to read it. Yes, you marked that you wanted to read it as well on Goodreads.
But did I do that because you marked that you wanted to read it, or because I already knew?
Because I also marked that I wanted to read the second book in this series, because it's a series called The Moonveil Matches. And the second book really caught my eye. It's called Cauldrons and Cattails.
Yes. I feel like I marked to read because you told me about this already.
Yeah. I think it had been when we were talking about things to do on the podcast and stuff, and I was just throwing shit out there.
I literally thought you were going to end that sentence with that we were talking about things. And I was like, yeah, Danny, we talk about a lot of things.
I mean, endless things, honestly.
I do love a vampire story, as we all know.
Yes.
Yeah.
You do love a vampire story. I love a cozy shit, apparently. That was knowledge that came to me with God, what was the book?
Legends and Lattes.
Yes, Legends and Lattes.
I love being our group's historian.
Well, you are. So what do you have to suggest, my love?
Okay, so I have read this book. I read this book in 2 days. The rest of the world was awful and evil during this time period because it kept me from reading this book even faster. So I am suggesting Pestilence by Laura Thalassa. I've already told you two about this, but let me tell the people. Fuck, I love this book. Okay, this is 5 stars, obviously. This is about the 4 horsemen, the literal apocalyptic 4 horsemen come to Earth and they wreak havoc. So they all come together for like a period of time and then they all leave and then Pestilence comes back first. And this is not like, oh, Pestilence, but really it's a mafia king. No, this is Pestilence. This is the man on the horse spreading the diseases. And then we have Sarah, who is the female main lead, and she, and this has happened by many people, but she attempts to kill him because when the entire world goes into a dystopian hellscape, you're going to try anything. So why not try to kill the immortal being? But, well, he's an immortal being, so it doesn't go well. And so instead of killing her back, Pestilence goes, you know what? No, I'm going to take you with me and torture you by making you, I guess, not participate, but be there for all of these horrible things as he rides across Canada and spreads disease. And it is so fucking good. The characters, it's so much about these like characters' introspection and growth and like Pestilence learning about humanity while Sarah learning about like his godly heavenly charge to do this. And I love the story. I love the characters they meet. I love the way the two grow, the romance, the friendship that forms. The spice when it happens is light, but it's there. It's still fun. It's slow burn. It's true enemies to lovers. I mean, literally, he's killing everyone. She tried to kill him. It's so good. I want to reread it right now.
I can't wait to be back into my covers and cuddled up so I can read it again.
You're not wrong, okay?
I
You're
know.
not wrong.
I know. Well, I think that about wraps it up.
So that brings us to the end of the episode. Go out there on the socials and vote for one of those last 3 books. Let us know which one you would like us to read. If you want to pick multiple, you sure can. We're not going to stop you. We might do multiple. Who's to say? Also, just find us out there on the socials at Wrong Dust Jackets, primarily on TikTok and Instagram. We really want to hear from you. Like, it would make my heart sing to hear from you. Also, you can go to our website, wrongdustjacket.com, where you can find a list of episodes that we've done. We have, at this point, I think like 70 or some ridiculous number like that. And
so there's got to be at least one you'll like. You got to try them all to find out, though.
And you can go and check out our blog post that we periodically update, usually about once every 2 months.
I mean,
but you'll find descriptions of books that have not made it into full episodes yet. Also, whatever podcast listening app you're on, we would absolutely love a like, 5 stars, comment, whatever you got. It super helps us in the ratings, and word of mouth is the only way that we grow. So we appreciate it so much. That's all I've got. Bye, y'all.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.